Hi, I'm Janet Raptis, and I am an energy healer and psychic medium. I'm also an intuitive development trainer. And so every Tuesday at 5:15 p.m., I do an intuitive check-in, and every week I have a different topic. And sometimes they're topics that I see coming up in my world or with my clients, and sometimes they are topics that people send to me. And so for this week, I'm going to be talking about card decks, tarot and oracle card decks. And I have had so many people in the last couple of weeks ask me, like, how do I choose a deck? Which deck is best for me? And I even had 3 people in the course of like 2 hours reach out to me one day last week and ask this question. And so I thought, it's a really good question. It's a really important question. The deck that you use for your own personal intuitive work is very personal. It's very intimate, and working with the right deck can make a huge difference in how your intuition works and how you feel about the readings that you get from it. Very early in my intuitive career, I got 1 or 2 decks that they just weren't resonating with me, and I kept thinking, like, I need to make this work. Like, what's wrong? Why am I? I was trying to force it, and then at some point I was like, wait a minute, like, this deck just doesn't do it for me, and I stopped working with it. Period. And of course, went on to other decks, and they were great. And so just because, I want you to keep in mind that just because I'm going to share some of my favorite decks with you guys today, I'm going to show you some of the cards from them, but just know that one of the things you want to keep in mind is that your deck is going to be very personal to you. And so we'll just talk a little bit about cards and divination tools for a moment. Oracle cards and tarot cards are one type of divination tool, and a divination tool is just something that helps you communicate with spirit. So tarot cards have been around for thousands of years. People have been using them since they were originally, it's believed that they came from like regular playing cards, and people who were seers, who were intuitive, started working with them and gleaning intuitive information from them in the same way that a lot of people do that with tea leaves or whatever. Like, people will use whatever is available to them to talk to spirit. And so it's not, cheating. It's not a shortcut. It's not anything like that. It's just one way of many that we can talk to spirit. Hey, Lauren. Thank you for everyone who's joined. So when I say, we talk to spirit, there are lots of divination tools. Tea leaves are one. I just mentioned that. Divining rods are another. Pendulums are another. Could go on and on. So there's also, like, within that, there will be different divination tools that resonate with you. I love cards, and I know a lot of people who do. I use them a lot in my readings. I don't always use them in my readings because sometimes the information comes in different ways. Some people resonate really well with cards, so sometimes I use them because I'll get like a calling, like spirit will tell me, like, pull out the cards. Even sometimes in my healing sessions, sometimes spirit gives me a message, pull out the cards, and that's because the cards will resonate really strongly with that person. So what is it about cards that is so special? And I think there are a lot of reasons that cards are very special. One of the things is that there are pictures on them. And for us as humans, we respond to visual stimuli. And we also are very symbolic. We communicate in a lot of ways through symbolism, and we understand symbolism even through the collective unconscious, right? So even if we're not very consciously using symbolism, we understand what symbols are simply because we've been alive and walking on the earth and reading books and talking to people and watching movies and looking at artwork for our whole lives. So when you are looking at a deck, there are going to be 2 things that you are going to want to tune into. And one is going to be the energy of the person who created the deck. Do you resonate with that person? Do you resonate with the energy of that person and what she or he is creating with that deck of cards? And then you also want to take a look at the artwork. And the artwork should elicit some sort of positive response from you. It should feel like you should feel drawn to the artwork in that deck, right? In order to want to play with them. And you can, it's really important to actually handle the deck. You can order decks online, but I always recommend that if you are looking for a deck, that you try to handle one first. And metaphysical shops usually keep at least a portion of the deck out so that you can do that. So you can actually go and you can actually hold the cards and go through the cards and look at least some of the cards in that deck. And that'll give you a really good idea of how you feel about it. Or if you have a friend who has cards, you can ask if you can play with her or his deck or whatever it might be. Some people don't like to have their decks handled by other people, and everybody's different in this. Don't take offense if somebody says no. And some people don't care. Like it doesn't bother me to have people touch my decks at all. I have programmed my decks to be self-cleansing, and other people have other ways of cleansing their decks, and we'll talk about that too in just a second. But just know that everybody's different. So, but you could also go to a card reader, you could have a card reading, and you could see how the decks that that person uses works for you, and so forth and so on. So play around a little bit. You could do it online too. Some people, like I know Colette Baron-Reid, she has a lot of decks out, and if you're on her website, she actually does, like, you could go on and you can choose cards for the day, and I think she does like 1 and 3 card polls, and so you could get an idea of what they look like and the idea of what her energy is like. I love her energy. Some of her decks are really amazing, and I'll share one with you. And so that's another way. But you really want to take a few moments to be in the energy of the deck. Yeah, Kristen's saying that she really needs to hold the deck. And I'm like that too. Even if I ultimately buy one online, it's usually only after I have actually handled the deck in some way, because that's important to me. Scott says he loves pictures. Yes, Scott does love pictures. So the pictures are really, the artwork is really important to me as well. And so I'm going to share some different decks with you. And in my opinion, like, for me, the artwork in all of the decks is a big part of that, along with the energy of the person, as I said. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between Tarot and Oracle. It's a question that I get all the time. The Tarot is, like I mentioned before, it's several thousand years old. It's been in use forever. And it's set up similarly to a deck of playing cards, in that there are 4 suits. And in traditional Tarot, these are Wands, Cups, Pentacles, and Wands, Cups, Pentacles. What am I missing, guys? I'm totally blanking out. Wands, Cups, Swords, and Swords. Wands, Cups, Pentacles, and Swords. In some other decks, those have been changed now. One of the decks I use, Angel Tarot, uses water instead of cups, and fire instead of wands. So sometimes those have been changed in different ways by the authors of the decks. In addition to those 4 suits, which are called the minor arcana, there is also in the traditional Tarot a major arcana. And the major arcana starts with a 0 card, which is the Fool. And the Fool it's like his journey. The Tarot is seen as the journey of the Fool. So the major arcana goes from 0 to 21. And it is like a journey through there. The different people that he comes across, the different experiences that the Fool has on his journey, like, you know, a typical like hero's journey in a way, right? It's definitely like a hero's journey. And then within the minor arcana, which are, you know, Ace through King, you have also like themes that kind of run through. Like the Ace card is always the beginning card, right? It's always something new happening, and so forth and so on through that. So one of the benefits of the Tarot is that as you start to understand it, you can really weave a reading through it. It's like all of the cards have relationships with one another. And so as you become more and more experienced with it, you start to experience textures and layers to it. And that is, for me, one of the things that I love about the Tarot. That said, the Tarot can be really difficult, and it can be off-putting sometimes, especially if you haven't worked with cards before, or if you're newer to working with your intuition. The Tarot can feel very challenging. In addition to that, some of the Tarot decks, the artwork can be like some of the cards, like the Death card and the 5 of Swords card, the 9 of Swords, like some of the cards can feel like really like, whoa. you might be a little like scared if you get them. Some of the Tarot decks are a little softer. like the Angel Tarot I mentioned earlier. But if you feel that way, if you feel like the tarot is a little overwhelming, or if you feel like, you know, you don't really like how some of the cards feel to you, you can also opt for an oracle deck. And oracle decks are really great. They're great for beginners, but they're great for everybody. I use oracle decks a lot. Oracle decks are really great for like a single card pull. So if you just want to pull for a card for the day, the oracle decks typically have the author of the deck will provide you with a pretty like good handbook that will share with you what the card is about, and some of them they'll give you like meditations or healings or prayers to use with the cards. So it can be even just working with one card can be a wonderful and rich experience. So with that said, I'm going to move on to, and this is a super brief summary, and there are a lot of people out there who teach card reading in depth. I know Kelly Knight of Modern Mystic has an online tarot course, and I think it's, I haven't taken her course, but I know Kelly knows the tarot super well. So, and then I've seen her do readings, and so I know that her course is probably really good. And so you could find that probably on the Modern Mystic website if it's something that you want to explore further. But for starters, you could always just pick up a deck and play with it, or pick up an oracle card deck. Does anyone, before I show you some of my favorite decks, does anybody have questions about anything I just brought up, or anything different that you want to know about either the tarot or oracle cards, why you should use them? You know, like I said before, that's a great way to communicate with spirit. And so sometimes it's really hard for us to get information on our own for ourselves. And so it can be really helpful to pull a card. It can give us great insight into anything that we've got going on in our lives. So I will show you some decks. The first deck that I'm going to show you is the Angel Tarot. And I don't use this deck all that much anymore, but I used it a lot when I first started doing readings. And I still really love it. The artwork is beautiful. I've just moved on to, and in fact, I love it so much that this is the first deck I had, but I've had two of them. I have a newer one that's at my office. So you can see the artwork is really beautiful. It's by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. They both have wonderful energy. They're both very connected to the angelic realm. This is very much an angelic deck, and I'm very connected to the angelic realm too, which is probably why I love it so much. So you can see some of that, and you can see how well loved this deck has been. You can see some of the cards, and they're really beautiful. And this is a pretty easy deck to read. The pictures have a lot of symbolism. There's a lot in them. There's some little, there's a few sentences at the bottom that share some of what the card's about. Now I will say with that, a lot of times decks will give you information at the bottom, and that's great. And also know that that might not necessarily be what the message is for you. So I always say that it's what's really, really important is how the card feels to you and what you intuit about it. In fact, there are a couple cards in this deck that the meaning that I get from them is completely different than what's actually on the deck. It's the meaning that comes through for me typically. And even within that, depending on who I'm doing the reading for, I might notice something completely different about this deck. I've done several thousand readings with this deck. And even a couple of weeks ago, I was using it in a reading and saw something I had never seen before. So just know that, you know, whatever needs to pop out to you is what you will see in the card. That's what the symbolism will be for you. And then you can use that to get the meaning of what it is for you or whoever you're reading for. And then, so I love that deck. And I'll share a couple more tarot decks. Let me see what Mindy, someone mentioned to me that you can bring in unwanted spirits. I've never thought about this possibility and wondered your thoughts. So you can bring in unwanted spirits if you are open to bringing in unwanted spirits. Some divination tools do sort of resonate with that realm, like especially Ouija boards. That said, if you are Like for me, I have, I've got my team working for me. I have all of my people in place to only allow in high vibrational energy. All of my spaces are sacred, protected, cared for, nurtured. So I don't allow any unwanted spirit into my realm ever, regardless of whether I'm doing healing work or working with cards or whatever. So Mindy, this is something that when you start, if you are using cards or using anything, you want to just tune in. You want to, even if you don't feel like you're communicating with your team, they can hear you. So all you have to do is say a prayer, something like, thank you for protecting this space, for blessing it, and for allowing in only high vibrational energies and spirits. Does that make sense? All right. One tarot deck that I love, love, love is the Wild Unknown. And this is actually the one that Kelly uses a lot and I think teaches from. So like here's the Mother of Pentacles, which would be the Queen of Pentacles in a regular deck. Here's the Hanged Man, which is a bat. I love bats. So you can see the artwork in this is really, I think it's really beautiful. It's very unique. There's the Sun card. So this is a really fun deck to work with as well. It's a little, I would say for a beginner, it might be a little bit more challenging to read because there's less imagery. So it would take a little more dedication in getting to know the deck and getting to know the cards, and you would really have to use your intuition. So, but it's a beautiful deck. The energy of it is awesome. The Wild Unknown has a lot of great products. I'm going to show you their Animal Spirit deck in a minute too. And they have cards, but they also have children's books and all kinds of good stuff. And her artwork is amazing. So this one that I'm going to share now is the Fountain Tarot, which I got after my friend Lee Morgan, who's on today, got this deck. And we were out in LA doing some work, doing some readings at a corporate event. And she brought this deck with her. And I was like, can I play with your deck? And she let me play with it. And I fell in love with it. And so this is the Fountain Tarot. And you can see a couple images here. And I'm just kind of picking images at random. And I use those of you who do my Sunday night healings are probably familiar with a lot of these decks. So this is a really, really beautiful deck as well. The artwork is phenomenal. The colors are beautiful. It's really fun to read. And as Scott noticed, which I did not notice this about the deck, but Scott noticed that he asked me, is this deck made by men? And it is. It's made by like 5 men, no women. So that's an interesting little fun fact about that deck as well. We're going to move on to Oracle card decks. So like I said, Oracle card decks are great for 1-card pulls. And I will start with this Animal Spirit deck. And I love working with animal spirits. I'm definitely like a nature animal empath in a lot of ways. Their energy resonates very strongly with me. And so if you feel like that's the type of, if you feel connected to that realm, then working with an animal deck is great. This is the second animal deck I've had. It is the one that I like the most. It's the one that, of all the animal decks I've seen, it's the one that resonates the most strongly with me. And here's a beautiful dragon card. And I actually like to mix, since I have this and the Wild Unknown Tarot, I actually like to mix the decks up and then use them together and do readings that way. And a lot of times when I do my Sunday healings, you guys might notice that I pull one from each. They work really, really well together. Oh, Lee said she found out the art is done by a woman. Oh, cool. Oh, that's interesting to know. So men created it and women did the artwork. Thank you, Lee, for sharing that. Okay. And then I'm going to share, oh God, y'all, I could be here for days sharing my favorite decks with you. So I'm going to try to keep this kind of succinct. I probably own about 30. This is the Sacred Rebels, and I recommend this deck a lot. People love it. It's another Oracle card deck. The woman who does this deck, Alana Fairchild, is a healer, and she's done a lot of decks. And she does, the descriptions in the book are beautifully written, very insightful, and she also shares like a healing exercise at the end of each one. So, this deck is really, really good for creative people. So if you feel like you have a creative streak, this card is a lot about opening up in the creative realm and aligning with spirit, and it's really, really beautiful. I'll just show you one more from here so you can see the artwork is really gorgeous. All right, and if you guys have any questions, oh, the animal deck, I was just going to say, if you have any questions about the decks, ask. The animal deck is also from the Wild Unknown, and it's called the Wild Unknown Spirit Animal Deck. There you go. Yeah, Lauren said Sacred Rebels is her first deck, and she loves it. It's a great, great deck for pulling a daily card. I like such a good deck for pulling a daily card. I find that if I have something like really complex going on, that's when I really like to get the tarot out. Like I really like to do like a complex spread. Like I'll do like I don't ever do the Celtic Cross, but I'll create spreads or tune into. Sometimes you can just use the cards as a story that's unfolding. And so as you start to really intuitively align with them, you can start to see how to have different layouts for you. But I could end up, if I have something pretty deep going on or something that I need a lot of insight around, I'll typically probably pull around between 5 and 12 maybe. And if it's just kind of a daily pull, I'll usually go straight for an Oracle deck. This is the Goddess deck that I use, and it's called the Goddess Oracle by Amy Marashinsky. This deck I use a lot at women's circles and on retreats. The energy in this deck is phenomenal. Anytime I pull a card from this deck and then do like a meditation with the goddess that's on it, it's like off the charts. So really, really good energy in that one. And then lastly, I told you I was going to show you a Colette Baron Reid deck, and I want to do that. She has a lot of Oracle decks. She does have a Tarot deck as well. She has the Wisdom of Avalon Tarot, which is quite different. It's it has veered off quite a bit from traditional, and is really good. It's and if you resonate with Avalon and Merlin and that realm, it's a really wonderful deck to work with. But this is her Enchanted Map deck, and the illustrations in this deck are really beautiful as well. This is one of my favorite cards in it. Also, I love this. I love giraffes. So here's the Come Together deck. So you guys can see there are tons of decks. The way to choose them is to really take the time to tune in for yourself in the deck, and to make sure that you, especially if you are a tactile person, if energetically you like to touch things to understand them, that you go to a metaphysical shop, that you check them out, hold them, and if you, and if you're not, if you're somebody who just likes to buy online, and that's fine too, just take time as you're going through, make sure you go to the author's site, get into the energy of the author, look at different illustrations of the different cards so you can get a feel for more than just one or two, and really let yourself tune into the energy of it. The more that you resonate with the author and the artist, the stronger your connection to the cards are going to be, the better your readings are going to be, the better you'll be able to read for other people with them. You know, it's funny because with my clients, I have certain decks, and some of them aren't even the decks that I shared with you, where if somebody particular is coming in, I'm like, I've got to get this, like, it's like that person, I just know that that's the deck for that person. And you'll start to develop that relationship with decks. You'll start to know like who everybody's what their strongest resonance is with, what their deck accessory is, so to speak. But it's a lot of fun. Cards are a great way to really connect more fully, and it's a great way to have something daily in your practice. It can really help you before you meditate. It can be something to be the catalyst for a great journaling session. There are a lot of different ways that you can use them that are all very, very enriching both spiritually and in the physical world. So, so do you guys have any questions or comments? Is there anything that do you want to know more about any of the decks I shared, or any other deck, or anything? I'm happy to answer. And I'm not sure, hopefully I didn't miss any questions. I can't scroll, so I'll just hold on for a minute. And thank you all so much. If you think of a question later, feel free to come back and put it in the comments. I always go back and check and make sure that I've gotten to everyone. So thank you so much. Oh, if you want to know more about working with your intuition, I almost forgot. I have a workshop here in Atlanta at Form Yoga on February 2nd and 3rd. We will address cards a little bit in it, but it will really be mostly about working with your energy field, how to understand being an empath and how to feel empowered as an empath, how to tune into your higher self and your inner wisdom, how to activate your psychic senses. So we'll be working with all of the different clair senses, and then also communicating with spirit and your guides, and which is something that you can do with the cards as well once you know who they are. So it's going to be really fun. The workshop is one of my favorites to teach. It's just a really, really good time, and we learn a lot, and we have a great time doing it. So thank you. I'll put information about that in the comment section, and I hope you guys all have a really, really wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.